Russia has given up trying to gain more territory, turning to trying to keep the areas already captured. The head of Ukraine's intelligence service has announced that Russia has given up on its attempt to capture more territory and is focusing on holding defensive positions ahead of a turning point counterattack from Kyiv. On Thursday, April 27, the head of military intelligence in Kyiv said Russia had almost given up on its attempt to capture more territory and was now focusing on securing its positions in preparation for a brutal Ukrainian counterattack. Major General Kyrylo Budanov, head of the General Intelligence Service of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine, said that Vladimir Putin's forces are directing almost all of their offensive activities to trying to capture the contested city of Bakhmut. Fiercely disagree. Major General Budanov, 37, did not reveal details of Ukraine's battle plan, but promised that a much-anticipated counteroffensive would be a landmark battle in Ukrainian history. The interview comes after Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the fearsome Wagner mercenary group of Russian fighters, announced his forces had captured Bakhmut earlier this month. The fact is that the city has not yet fallen and continues to witness fierce fighting. Budanov mocked Prigozhin in his latest interview with RBC Ukraine, saying Putin's close friend has nothing to celebrate given the meager gains and huge losses that Russian forces have suffered. 2. Explosions reported in several Russian-controlled areas of southern Ukraine. Official reports and eyewitness accounts on social media detailed large explosions in areas temporarily occupied by Russia in southern Ukraine on Thursday. Very large explosions occurred near the town of Nova Kakhovka, the site of an important hydroelectric project on the Dnipro River. Video shows smoke rising very high. CNN could not confirm which target might have been hit, but the Russian-founded Nova Kakhovka district government claimed the town was without power due to shelling by Ukrainian armed forces. In response, Russia shelled the area west of the Dnipro River controlled by Ukraine. An artillery shelling killed a woman and severely wounded her husband in a nearby village, the Kherson Regional Military Administration said. The mayor of Melitopol, Ivan Fedorov, said a loud explosion was heard in Melitopol. The Russian-invaded city became the center of Russian forces far from the front lines. According to Vladimir Rogov, a senior official in the Russian-appointed government in Zaporizhia, an improvised explosive device exploded near the entrance of an apartment building. He said the building was slightly damaged but there were no casualties. Melitopol is regularly attacked with long-range rockets and artillery, as well as homemade devices apparently carried out by Ukrainian guerrilla groups against officials in the Russian-backed government. Elsewhere, in eastern Ukraine, 4 children in the city of Donetsk were injured trying to move an explosive device they found on the road, Russian-designated authorities in the region said. There is no further information on the incident. 3. Defense Minister commented that the expectation of Ukraine's counteroffensive was too hot. Ukraine's Defense Minister Alexei Reznikov spoke about the public's expectations of a counterattack against Russian forces in an interview with the Ukrainian news agency RBC. When asked if the public's expectations of a counterattack were somewhat overheated, he said, "I agree. They were definitely overheated. Everyone wants another win." Reznikov said that Ukraine's successes in the Kharkiv region and in the city of Kherson mean that the public now believes that the Ukrainian army can achieve victory. They want the next win. It is normal to expect successes, he said. Ukraine has gone to great lengths to conceal the start of any counterattack, as CNN's Nick Payton-Walsh wrote earlier this week. Reznikov's Deputy Minister Hanna Maliar, had previously said that the counterattack would not be announced. Later in the interview, Reznikov said that Ukraine's priority is to strengthen its Soviet-era air defense system. The country must exist, and for this purpose, air defense is number one. We have a Soviet system that is running out of missiles. This is not a sprint. We're running a marathon. I cannot say how many kilometers we are from the finish line, he added. 4. Did Ukraine launch a drone that killed Vladimir Putin? Russian, German and Ukrainian media outlets as well as other countries simultaneously reported that Ukraine had launched a drone to kill Vladimir Putin. How is the truth? Newsweek had an article titled, "Did Ukraine target Vladimir Putin in drone attack? What we know," which means, did Ukraine launch a drone to kill Vladimir Putin? What we know. A drone recently found near Moscow may be involved in a plot to assassinate Russian President Vladimir Putin, the media reported on Thursday, April 27. 17 kilograms of explosives were used to kill Putin. Headlines from Ukrainian and German media were widely quoted on social media. During the Russo-Ukrainian war, there were reports of Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky being the target of assassination attempts by Russian forces, as confirmed by the Secretary of the National Security Council of Ukraine, Alexei Danilov. There have also been reports of plots to assassinate Putin, although these have not been confirmed by officials in Moscow and cannot be independently verified. Is there any truth behind these most recent claims? Newsweek's disinformation team dug deeper into the story. The widely cited claim that a Ukrainian drone was sent with the aim of removing the Russian president appears to stem from a single news story, published by the German newspaper Bild on Wednesday morning. Titled 17 kilograms of explosives supposed to kill Putin, the story includes several warnings that undermine this narrative. The authors cite Bild research as the main basis for concluding that the Ukrainian Secret Service tried to kill Putin. Accordingly, a UJ-22 unmanned aerial vehicle took off over Ukraine on Sunday afternoon. This is Ukraine's most modern medium-range drone with a range of up to 800 kilometers. Their target is a newly built industrial park near Moscow, 500 kilometers from Ukraine. But the Bild report itself appears to be based on a statement from a single source. It was a Twitter post by Ukrainian journalist and founder of the Ukraine Institute for the Future, Yuri Romanenko, who, according to Bild newspaper, said it has close relations with the intelligence service of the Ministry of Defense of Ukraine. Romanenko himself provided no convincing evidence of his connection to the intelligence service or indeed inside knowledge of Ukraine's security apparatus. Last week, our intelligence officers received information about Putin's trip to the Rudnevo Industrial Park. Accordingly, our kamikaze drone took off, flew over all the air defense systems of the Russian Federation and crashed not far from the industrial zone, Bild newspaper wrote, citing part of the tweet by Romanenko from April 24. In the post, Romanenko said that Putin's plan to visit the industrial park was indirectly confirmed by Kremlin insider Pavel Zarubin, citing a Telegram post from April 23. But Zarubin's post only noted that a visit to one of the industrial zones of Moscow was on Putin's schedule for this week, without specifying the name, location or time Putin planned to visit the said area. The German publication acknowledged that the Telegram post did not specify the exact time of the expected visit, but noted that passers-by published photos from the Rudnevo Industrial Park on Sunday afternoon, showing it a gray lawn in front of the main building is spray-painted green. While the Russian media has in the past reported that local authorities are trying to make Russian cities look decent for presidential visits, that in itself is not. Can be seen as convincing evidence that the painting of the lawn was done because of Putin's visit. The article went on to say that the accident happened near the village of Voroskogo, east of Moscow, but clarified that it was about 20 kilometers east of the Rudnevo Industrial Park, not an exact blow for an assassination plot. Official statements also poured cold water on these reports, with the Kremlin spokesman first denying that Putin plans to make a public appearance next week, and then directly address it. Reported by Bild, calling it a tabloid hoax. The Kremlin's denials have been proven false at times, and often they are, but in the past it has sometimes been verifiable. Romanenko even went so far as to suggest that Putin's outings were cancelled precisely because of the drone strike. However, this claim is purely speculative and he offers no evidence to back it up. Likewise, even if Bild did speak to sources in the Ukrainian security apparatus, their comments should not be taken as of real value. It could be part of an ongoing information war happening around the conflict. As Newsweek previously reported, 3 downed drones have been spotted in the past few days near Moscow, one of which is believed to be armed with explosives. The findings follow a report last month that Russian authorities had detected another drone they suspected was coming from Ukraine, about 9 miles northeast of Moscow. Officials in Kiev have not claimed responsibility for any of these incidents, and the fact that the drone reports have only come from Russian state media has led to some skepticism. Some commentators question whether it is too convenient for Moscow that these reports come amid leaks from the Pentagon, which appear to describe Ukraine's plan to attack the U.S. inside Russia. But regardless of who is behind the string of reported drone shootings or what their targets are, claims that they represent an assassination attempt on the Russian leader are unsubstantiated and seemingly unproven. As relying on a single source that does not provide any evidence of that purpose nor insider knowledge of such an activity. Newsweek has reached out via email to Hvilia, where Romanenko is editor-in-chief, as well as the Russian and Ukrainian defense ministries, for comment. 5. Russian military is strengthening defenses around Mariupol, says Ukrainian official. An advisor to the mayor of Mariupol has reported that the Russian army is strengthening the defenses around the city. Russian invaders continue to dig deep and build defenses around Mariupol, Petro Andriushenko said. Now they are taking wood to build canoes. Yesterday, for the first time, military trucks traveled in large numbers to the Mangush district and partly in the direction of Berdyansk. They are filled with wood to build fortifications. The number of fortifications is increasing in all directions, he added. Andriushenko also announced that, this week, the Russian-backed army started resettling in empty houses in the northern villages of Mariupol to protect it. Mariupol, a port city on the Sea of Azov, is located in the Donetsk region of Ukraine and has been under direct Russian control since May 2022. 6. The governor of the northeastern province of Ukraine said that Russia had destroyed a bridge in Chernihiv. Vyacheslav Chas told a television station that Russian shelling destroyed the Sudost River crossing. The bridge connects the villages of Muravyai and Gremyak near Novgorod-Siversky. For several weeks, the bridges over the river of the Novgorod-Siversk community were shelled, said Serhiy Seryenko, head of the Novgorod-Siversky District Military Administration. This makes it impossible to provide services to the people in the usual way, such as providing food and other things. And it restricts movement to central autonomous bodies. 7. Xi Jinping, Zelensky call may have been prompted by ambassador's non-diplomatic comments. The long-awaited phone call between Xi Jinping and Volodymyr Zelensky was cautiously welcomed, but China analysts say the timing suggests it could be part of action to reduce damage. Harmed after controversial comments by the Chinese ambassador to France. Ambassador Liu She, is one of China's hawkish diplomats with a long history of scathing statements, which has sparked outrage across Europe. This week, he sparked controversy by denying the sovereignty of former Soviet states, saying they have no de facto status. The comments have been harshly condemned, with several European countries summoning Chinese ambassadors to rebuke them, and politicians saying it proves China is unreliable as a neutral side in the Ukraine war. Beijing, which considers Russia its closest major ally, has sought to present itself as a neutral and a potential mediator and has shown signs that Mr. Xi is unhappy with China's actions. Russia's actions, but in reality, China largely supports Russia's position. Trang Jia-Ian, an associate professor of political science at the National University of Singapore, observes that, at the time there was considerable concern about Russia's ambitions and the emergence of Russia. People's Republic of China's support for them. Liu She's comments seem to indicate that Beijing is willing to continue, perhaps even expand, its support for an aggressive policy of Russia. 8. Russia's foreign ministry says it hopes to avoid the use of nuclear weapons but shouldn't test patience. Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said Russia did not intend to follow the path of nuclear escalation in its confrontation with the West over Ukraine, but that other countries should not test Russia's patience either. Her comments come after a series of warnings by senior Russian officials, including President Vladimir Putin, that Western military support for Ukraine is increasing the risk of a nuclear conflict. Catastrophic person. We will do everything to prevent the development of worst-case scenarios, but not at the cost of infringing on our vital interests, Zakharova told a news conference. Regular. I wouldn't advise anyone to doubt our resolve and put it to the test. Russia has strongly criticized Western arms supplies to Ukraine and the expansion of the NATO military alliance closer to its borders. Finland, which shares a long border with Russia, this month became NATO's 31st member, while Ukraine itself wants to join, despite opposition from some countries. The United States continues to deliberately infringe upon our fundamental interests, deliberately create risks and jeopardize our confrontation with Russia, Zakharova said. Former Russian President Dmitry Medvedev, a close ally of Putin, said earlier this week that the world was most likely on the verge of a new world war. 9. NATO head welcomes Xi Jinping Zelensky's call, but notes that China has not yet condemned Russia's invasion. NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg on Thursday said he welcomed the phone call between Chinese President Xi Jinping and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky on Wednesday, but noted that Beijing had not yet condemned the invasion of Russia. "I welcome the phone call between President Zelensky and President Xi. I think the important thing about this call is that China has a better understanding of Ukraine's position. However, this does not change the fact that China has not been able to condemn Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine," Stoltenberg told a news conference in Luxembourg. He added that NATO allies have expressed strong support for President Zelensky's peace plan, including, of course, full respect for Ukraine's territorial integrity. Xi Jinping and Zelensky spoke by phone on Wednesday, in their first known conversation since Russia invaded Ukraine. Zelensky, who has long expressed a desire to speak with Xi, said he had a long and meaningful phone call with the Chinese leader that lasted an hour. "We have fully discussed current issues of bilateral relations. We pay special attention to possible ways of cooperation to establish a just and lasting peace for Ukraine," Zelensky said in a statement. "There can be no peace at the expense of territorial compromises," Zelensky said. In a statement, Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Mao Ning quoted Xi as telling Zelensky that mutual respect for sovereignty and territorial integrity is the political basis of China's relations with Ukraine. Xi also reiterated Beijing's position that China's core position in the Ukraine conflict is promoting peace and negotiation. 10. Private First Class Jack Teixeira has an arsenal of weapons in his bedroom. Private Jack Teixeira of the United States Air Force National Guard, accused of leaking military secrets and storing an arsenal of weapons in his bedroom, appeared in court for a detention hearing today. April 27. Federal prosecutors requested continued detention, arguing that Teixeira, who was arrested April 13 in Massachusetts and charged with violating the Espionage Act, should continue to be detained because of the risk. National security is too high. The 21-year-old is accused of leaking classified documents, including some related to troop movements during the Russian-Ukrainian conflict, to gamers on messaging app Discord. He kept a gun cabinet 2 feet from his bed, stocked with pistols and rifles including automatic submachine guns. FBI agents also found a gas mask, ammunition and what appeared to be a silencer in his desk drawer. The defendant certainly poses a danger to the United States as a whole based on his ability to pose a particularly grave danger to the national security of the United States, said a petition filed by the U.S. Attorney's Office Rachel Rollins. There is also evidence that the defendant may also pose a physical danger to the community. 11. Council of Europe says Russia's kidnapping of children from Ukraine is genocide. At a session on Thursday, the Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe voted that the arrest and abduction of children from Russia's invaded territories in Ukraine was genocide. Resolution on kidnapping and forcible transfer of Ukrainian children and other civilians to the Russian Federation or territories temporarily invaded by Ukraine requires creating conditions for their safe return, preventing this crime and punish the perpetrators, passed with 87 votes in favor, meaning an overwhelming majority. Only one representative voted against and another abstained. In its resolution, the Council called for immediate and urgent action to stop the illegal transfers and kidnappings currently being carried out by the Russian Federation against the people of Ukraine, and in particular, is the policy and practice of the country regarding the removal of children from their families and homes and the subsequent absorption of children into Russian nationality, identity, and culture. The resolution added, the conference emphasized the need for the recording and monitoring of individual cases, both to enable prompt remedial mechanisms and to gather evidence of accountability in order to bring perpetrators, at every level of responsibility, to justice. The Council called for an end to the practice, immediately and unconditionally. The Council also asked Russia to provide access to NGOs and charities, as well as information on where the children are. The International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Vladimir Putin in March in connection with the illegal abduction of minors. A similar arrest warrant has also been issued for Russia's Child Rights Commissioner Maria Alexeyevna Lvova-Belova, who is believed to have 18 adopted children, including a teenager from Mariupol. The resolution states that Russia has begun transferring children from the occupied territories of Donetsk and Luhansk before the invasion on February 24 last year. In a report earlier this month, the Ukrainian government said it had collected reports of more than 19,000 children being abducted. 12. U.S. veteran accused of spreading leaked documents is working with Russians. Newsweek had a report titled U.S. veteran accused of spreading leaked documents is working with Russians, which means a U.S. veteran charged with spreading leaked documents is working with Russians. A former U.S. Navy officer who runs a pro-Kremlin social media network called Donbas Devushka says that native Russians work for her company. Sarah Bills, a New Jersey native and Navy veteran, was behind Donbas Devushka. She shared the details of having Russian employees in an interview with Russian state media outlet RT published on Thursday. The media reported this month that the Donbas Devushka accounts were responsible for spreading leaked classified documents related to Russia's war in Ukraine. At least 4 classified U.S. intelligence documents were shared by the Donbas Devushka network, which posts the documents on YouTube, Twitter, Telegram and Rumble. Bills was also identified as the head of Donbas Devushka in those reports, but she told the Wall Street Journal that another administrator was behind the posted documents. The Wall Street Journal writes that there is no evidence that Bills stole any classified information and that there is no evidence that anyone associated with Donbas Devushka was involved in the theft or originally posted the information. Government secrets. After initial stories emerged of Donbas Devushka's alleged participation in the documents that went viral online, the network's Telegram account wrote that the documents were immediately deleted upon learning that they contained potential leaks from U.S. intelligence. Bills, a second-class avionics technician until the end of 2022, told RT that her 15-member Donbas Devushka team came together primarily through the dynamic world of social media. When RT asked if there were any Russian nationals working for Donbas Devushka, Bills at first said she wanted to be cautious for the safety of her team members because of a recent information hunting campaign. Then she confirmed yes. While I am cautious about disclosing specifics about the composition of our team, I can say that we have native Russians in our ranks, as well as many different voices from all over the world. Anywhere in the world, she said. Bills declined to disclose whether she or any of her team members have visited Ukraine's Donbas region since the start of Russian President Vladimir Putin's war on February 24, 2022. She said community members visited the area and witnessed the events there firsthand. Before the Wall Street Journal published a lengthy story about Donbas Devushka on April 16, Bills' identity was revealed by a group of intelligence analysts and activists known as the Northern Fella Foundation. Atlantic Ocean, NAFO for short. When contacted by Newsweek about a past story about Donbas Devushka, a member of NAFO who worked on the Bills report said they trust the U.S. Department of Justice to thoroughly investigate and stand ready to assist, help if needed.